the year 2013 and took home some $34 million using the cash option. The Des Moines area couple won just over $200 million back in 2012. Lottery officials say their states benefit from the proceeds from Powerball and other lotteries. In the most recent fiscal year, Iowa collected about $80 million in lottery proceeds, with $2.5 million going to support veterans and their families. Mary Neubauer, who is spokeswoman for the Iowa Lottery. The rest went to the state's general fund for things such as education and law enforcement. In Nebraska, more than $648 million has been raised for the state's lottery beneficiary funds since the lottery started back in 1993, according to Neil Watson. He said most of those funds have gone toward education and environmental efforts, such as improving wildlife habitat and offering needed-based college scholarships. Store clerks say some buyers joke around when they get their tickets, asking only for winning ones. Lawson, the Omaha clerk, said she jokes right back. I say, if you win, don't forget us.
Honestly.
Yeah.
From the Journal Star, many organs help treat cystic fibrosis. From Utrecht, Netherlands. Els van der Heijden, who has cystic fibrosis, was finding it even harder to breathe as her lungs filled with thick, sticky mucus. Despite taking more than a dozen pills and inhalers a day, the 53-year-old had to stop working and scale back going to the thing that she loved best, horseback riding. Doctors saw no sense in trying an expensive new drug because it hasn't been proven to work in people with the rare type of cystic fibrosis that van der Heijden had. Instead, they scraped a few cells from van der Heijden and used them to grow a mini version of her large intestine in a petri dish. When van der Heijden's mini gut responded to treatment, doctors knew that it would help her too. I really felt physically like a different person, van der Heijden said, after taking the drug and getting back in the saddle. The experiment to help people with rare forms of cystic fibrosis in the Netherlands aims to grow mini intestines for every Dutch patient with the disease to figure out, in part, what treatment might work for them. It's an early application of a technique now being worked on in labs all over the world as researchers learn to grow organs outside of the body for treatment and maybe someday for transplants. So far, doctors have grown mini guts, just the size of a pencil point, for 450 of the Netherlands' roughly 1,500 cystic fibrosis patients. The mini guts are small, but they are complete, said Dr. Hans Klevers of the Hubrecht Institute, who pioneered the technique. Except for muscles and blood vessels, the tiny organs have everything you would expect to see in a real gut, only on a really small scale. These so-called organoids mimic features of full-size organs, but don't function the same way. Although many of the tiny replicas are closer to undeveloped organs found in an embryo than in adult ones, they are helping scientists unravel how organs mature and providing clues on how certain diseases might be treated. In Australia, many kidneys are being grown that could be used to test drugs. Researchers in the US are experimenting with tiny bits of livers that might be used to boost failing organs. At Cambridge University in England, scientists have created hundreds of mini brains to study how neurons form and better understand disorders such as autism. During the height of the Zika epidemic last year, mini brains were used to show the virus causes malformed brains in babies. Making a single mini gut and testing whether the patient would benefit from certain drugs costs a couple of €1,000. The program is paid for by groups that include health insurance companies, patient foundations, and the government. The idea is to find a possible treatment for patients and avoid putting them on expensive drugs that wouldn't work for them. Clevers made a discovery about a decade ago that got researchers on their way. They found pockets of stem cells which can turn into many types of other cells in the gut. They then homed in on growing environment in the lab that spurred these cells to reproduce rapidly and develop. To our surprise, the stem cells started building a mini version of the gut, Clevers recalled. Researchers are also using the mini gut to try another approach they hope will someday work in people, using a gene editing technique to repair the faulty cystic fibrosis gene in the organoid cell. 1019. Here's Jeff.
Thank you, Bill. About time. It is time
Yeah.
to move from national, international news to local and sports. It's local and Midlands news here. I've been running through the pages of the paper because they're all kind of thrown together. But anyway, have the one section mixed in with the other one. So I'm going to, I'm still trying to find something. Let me see. This one, where is it? I have to find page 5. Page 5 is after page 4. That I got. There's, you want to say it one more time? So
Sure. Here, from the...
I got this paper
Okay.
kind of put together, or not put together.
From the Lincoln Journal-Star, a report shows that Lincoln has two sides. Prosper Lincoln says data shows growing disparity. Prosper Lincoln volunteers provided a progress report and pep talk on the effort to make Lincoln a better city at a breakfast attended by more than 800 community leaders on Wednesday. Prosper Lincoln is a project based on 10 years of data, and the data tells a story of two Lincolns, said Nancy Schenk with the University of Nebraska Public Policy Center. One Lincoln is prospering and has rebounded well from the recession, and another is struggling to even a greater extent, she said, at a breakfast meeting at the Pinnacle Bank Arena. The 10 years of data includes the Great Recession, when half of all Americans lost a job or saw a cut in pay or in hours, said Schenk, who developed Lincoln Vital Signs, a data-driven report that led to the community-wide Prosper Lincoln project. Lincoln is experiencing recovery from the recession. The average household has nearly recovered its pre-recession work hours and income. The number of neighborhoods where more than 40% live in poverty has shrunk by from 6 to 5, and nearly 90% of all Lincoln residents have health insurance. Overall, Lincoln is doing better than most cities in the U.S., Schenk said, but there is a worrying trend of increasing disparity where higher income households experience greater income gains than lower income households, and the number of people working full-time but still living in poverty has doubled, she said. In Lincoln, nearly 40,000 individuals, that's 15% of the community, live below the poverty threshold, and the number of children who participate in Lincoln's public school free and reduced price lunch program has doubled to nearly half of the district population, she said. Breakfast speakers, including Governor Pete Ricketts and Lincoln Mayor Chris Beitler, encouraged audience members to get or remain involved in the Prosper Lincoln effort, spearheaded by the Lincoln Community Foundation and almost 24 businesses and community agencies. Turning the page here. Lincoln did not get to be a great city by accident, Ricketts said. It happened because people like you worked to make it a great city, the governor said, as he listed some of the city's top 10 accolades. Government can do a lot of great things: build roads, protect public safety, protect its most vulnerable people, Ricketts said, but love of community is what makes a great city. Beitler also thanked community leaders from the nonprofit, private business, and government sectors for helping shape the city. It is sometimes difficult to discern good change from bad, particularly when the pace of change is so accelerated, so sophisticated, and so complicated, he said. It is paramount that groups of intelligent citizens help sort through that change, choosing good change and rejecting bad change, Beitler said. Over the past 3 years, Prosper Lincoln set out 3 priority areas: early childhood, employment skills, and innovation, and entrepreneurship. And the core group has hired 4 professionals to guide the volunteer efforts: Michael Suarez, childhood education, Brian Seck and Mike Milburn, employment, and Rich Clausen, innovation and entrepreneurship. Prosper Lincoln is co-chaired by Rich Bailey, founder of Bailey Lauerman, Joanne Martin, president and CEO of Emeritus, and Barbara Bartle, president of the Lincoln Community Foundation. Here's Jack.
Very good. Thank you, Bill. Here's some good news from St. Patrick's Church. I think it's over in Fremont, is it? We'll find out.
Beautiful, yes.
Okay. The new gymnasium at St. Patrick Catholic Church and School on Wednesday evening was full of young children darting about, adults trying not to trip over them, and parents corralling their youthful sprinting progeny. The celebration move was a far cry from 14 months ago when 2 young boys from the parish died in separate incidents within days of each other. You can imagine that time it was intensified with such sadness, said St. Patrick's pastor, the Reverend Tom Fangman. It was such a profound, sad loss for the whole community. Wednesday night, St. Patrick celebrated the grand opening of the Aspen, Seaman, and Lane Graves Activity Center. The blessing and dedication included an open house, reception, and a special blessing by the Archbishop George Lucas. Lane, too, died June 14th, 2016, after a alligator dragged him into a lagoon near a Disney World hotel in Orlando, Florida. Aspen 3 was found unconscious in West Shores Lake near the Seaman home June 18th and died 5 days later. Both boys attended the church, which is at 204th and West Maple Road in the Elkhorn area. Thousands of children will benefit from the center, Fangman said. It includes a full gymnasium, a cafeteria, and a music room. It's huge, he said. It's going to be used all day, every day. Had those tragedies not occurred, the boys probably would have been among the children using the center. Their future would have been spent here. They would have been educated here. They would have played here, he said, adding that he hopes that the naming will bring the parents some comfort. The Graves and Seaman families will know that their children's names will be carried on and they will be remembered hereafter. Funding the $5.5 million center was raised by the parish. About 300 people attended the opening house on Wednesday evening. The home green ribbon for the center was cut by 9-year-old Jenner Seaman, older brother of Aspen, and Melissa Graves, Lane's mother. Fangman counted 1, 2, 3, and with a cut from the scissors, the ribbon sections drifted to the floor. The crowd applauded. Some cheered. Good job, Jenner, someone yelled. The parish is the youngest in the archdiocese, Fangman said. Nestled among the growing, sprawling suburbs, 40% of the parishioners are under age 17. The average age is 27. There are 2 little ones that had such an impact on our life, said Charles Olson, age 37, holding son Dominic, who's age 3, in his arms. Dominic used to run and play with Lane. You can instantly put yourself in that situation. It hit us all really hard, but they all get to live forever at St. Patrick's.
Thank you. That's a nice story. From the Journal Star, woman's eclipse selfie reveals 2 more eyes. During the darkest moments of Monday's midday eclipse, Crystal S.A. appeared to have the sun in her eyes, but she didn't know it until 10 hours later when she checked her phone. She had gathered with coworkers at 9 South Char Grill in Hickman to watch the total eclipse, but their brush with totality was obscured by a bank of inconsiderate clouds. Still, when the parking lot darkened, she put her phone on selfie mode, turned her back to the sun, and snapped 3 self-portraits in a rapid succession. It was like click, 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 she said. Nothing unusual about the first 2 photos, SA in the background, I should say foreground, and other eclipse viewers, and the dim, cloudy skies in the background. But the 3rd photo caught her eyes because of what was in them. 2 tiny eclipse-looking images, each to the left of her own irises in the whites of her eyes. It's crazy. I have 3 pictures and they're exactly the same, but the last one, I was like, okay, I have 4 eyes. She's not sure what created the other pair. She doubts it's a reflection of the sun for 2 reasons. First, the sky was so cloud covered during totality she couldn't see any part of the eclipse, and she would expect the reflections to be perfectly round, and these images seem to conform to the contours of her eyes. She found eclipse experts online and sent them questions but hasn't heard back. She asked an eye doctor who blamed camera movement when the picture was taken. The type of error occurs more often in panoramic photos, but they can show up in a regular snapshot, the doctor told her. I know what he's saying, she said, but it doesn't quite fit the bill here. Rebecca Harbison, an astronomer at the University of Nebraska Lincoln, took a look at the photo and didn't immediately know what to make of it. It could be a reflection, she suggested, or it could be a confused phone. When too much light falls on a camera's chip, you can get some weird effect, she said. If the camera was trying to photograph a dark setting like near totality, the bright reflection might have overloaded the chip. Essay said the photo wasn't doctored. She hopes it's related to the eclipse. It's either that or some alien spirit, which I don't want. Here's Jack.
Thank you. This news comes from Lincoln. One of the most popular game day hangouts for Husker football fans finds itself on thin ice after paying $8,000 in fines for selling a bottle of Captain Morgan to a 19-year-old intoxicated customer. Missouri's owners of Barberry's Bar and Grill at 9th and Q in Lincoln reached a plea agreement Wednesday with the Nebraska Liquor Control Commission after being accused of 7 liquor law violations. They pleaded guilty to providing bottle service to a 19-year-old man, meaning he was able to buy an entire bottle of rum for a premium price. They also pleaded guilty to serving to an intoxicated patron after the same underage man registered a blood alcohol level approaching 3 times the legal limit. A lawyer for Barberry's owners, Kevin Fitzpatrick, and Kevin Duffy of Richmond Rollins LLC, said they are making serious investments to train staff members on how to prevent future violations. The owners agreed to pay, a pair of $4,000 fines in lieu of a 40-day suspension of their license. In exchange, the Attorney General's office and the commission agreed to the dismissal of the 5 other charges, said Herbert Ruppe, who's the commission's executive director. It's the 3rd time the bar has been caught selling alcohol to intoxicated customers in the past 4 years, Ruppe said. A 4-6 violation in that time frame would result in cancellation of the bar's license. They understand they're on thin ice, Ruppe said. Since April 30th incidents, the owners have increased security staff at the bar while consulting with the industry experts on how to more reliably detect fake identification, said Mike Kelly, who's an Omaha attorney who represented the Berries. The owners also operate 3 bars in Indiana and 2 in Missouri from their headquarters located in Columbia, Missouri. They're really serious about all that can be done to prevent these violations, Kelly said after the hearing. The steps so far have impressed the members of the Liquor Commission. Chairman Bob Batt of Omaha said the owners were not just spouting platitudes and have confiscated dozens of fake IDs since the April incident. Bill?
Thank you, Jack. Let's see. I'm sorry. I'm having a little trouble here.
Little trouble on the computer, huh?
Yes.
When I think about paper, it's there.
That is
you might have trouble finding it, but it's.
All right. A couple ties a knot under the eclipse from Beatrice. The planning was the easy part, but actually getting married proved to be a little more difficult. Sarah Bolwett and Morgan Jones were married during the total solar eclipse on Monday in Beatrice, but the path to their wedding took them thousands of miles from home and over a few bumps along the way. Bolwett and Jones knew they wanted to get married during the total solar eclipse. The only problem was the eclipse wouldn't reach them where they live in Homer, Alaska. Bolwett, a native of Seward, wanted to come back to Nebraska to get married. They could have done it at her parents' house in Seward, but Beatrice had a full minute of eclipse totality. Her best friend in high school, Suzanne Claybaugh, and her husband, Nate, offered their home in Beatrice for them to get married, which the couple accepted. The two took a plane from Homer with their daughter, Sydney, and were off to Nebraska. That's when the real adventure began. They arrived on August 17th, Bulwitt's 35th birthday, after an 18-hour delay, and headed to Seward, where her mother had a series of events scheduled. After a hamburger feed on Friday and a rehearsal dinner on Saturday, they were going to have a small get-together for the reception on Sunday, but heavy rains led to flooding along the Big Blue River. The reception was moved from City Park to Bulwitt's parents' homes, where the water pressure issues arose as a result of flooding. No water, no flushing, said Sue Bulwitt, Sarah's mother. Portable toilets were brought in. On the way to Beatrice for the wedding on Monday, Sue Bulwitt had medical concerns that prompted a stop at the emergency room. Fortunately, they all made it to their places for the wedding, and the skies cooperated. At the last moment, the clouds began to part, and what looked like a diamond ring shone brightly before the halo around the sun appeared, and the sky plunged into darkness. The guests cheered. It was a difficult journey to get to their wedding day, but they had done it, Joan said, and it was pretty amazing experience. It was one of the coolest things I've ever seen. 10:36, here's Jack.
Thank you. The Nebraska multi-sport complex's pay is poised. I'm sorry, they're poised to select a general contractor today, and apparent step forward for the project last estimated at $1.25 million. The site of the complex near 120th and Giles Road in La Vista has been quiet since grading wrapped up in late spring. The selection committee is recommending J.E. Dunn Construction Company, which is a Kansas City-based firm that also handled the grading. The selection must be approved by the Interlocal Board of Directors, which is a group of representatives from the city of La Vista and Sarpy County that is overseeing and issuing bonds for the project. After the selection, a representative of the agency will negotiate a contract with J.E. Dunn. Calls to La Vista Mayor Dong Kindig and multi-sport complex President Harold Clef were not returned. Plans on the complex's website call for 6 swimming pools, 2 of which are Olympic size, 12 tennis courts, 4 squash courts, 12 soccer fields, and a sports performance center, a field house, and a tennis center. But in May, project leaders told the World Herald that they were reevaluating the project's timeline, mix of funding resources, and the total price. At least some portions of the project will need to open up by October of 2018 to garner state turnback tax from the nearby Costco. The turnback tax has been a major part of the complex's funding plan. The interlocal agency meeting will be held today at 1:30 in the afternoon at the La Vista City Hall. And here's another article. This one comes from Lincoln. Karen Dassel discovered a surprise when she viewed the time-lapse video she made during Monday's solar eclipse. The video, taken in front of a crowd in Grand Island, shows the sky darken, the light return, things you'd expect during the eclipse, but then a couple step forward into the video frame. A man bends down on one knee. They embrace and he twirls her around because it's time lapse. The video is in fast motion. Delgio of Lincoln realized the accidentally captured. That makes sense. Delgio of Lincoln realized she accidentally captured a marriage proposal on the lawn of Central Community College. But who were the couple? With Grand Island drawing people from across the country and overseas for the eclipse, she knew that they would be from almost anywhere. Dejil wanted to share the video with them. So she posted it on social media and asked for help identifying the very mystery couple. Within a day, she had an answer. The couple, Bria Christensen and Joe McIlhone, live in Omaha, and said they're thrilled that Dalziel captured their big moment right after the other big moment. Melthon's parents were there and took video of the proposal. But McIllian and the Dalziel's time-lapse video is participating special because it shows the total eclipse preceding his proposal, adding the beauty and the power of that solar summer to their big moment. Dalziel has emailed the video to the couple and said she's glad they could give them something to make their engagement even more memorable. Said Christensen, it's the cherry on the top.
Thank you, Jack. From the Journal Star, Fisher, and that is Senator Deb Fisher, champions Nebraska projects. Senator Deb Fisher said Wednesday she is pushing for sufficient flexibility in the emerging Trump administration infrastructure development plan to open the way for funding support for Omaha's hugely expensive sewer separation project, along with expansion of broadband internet service in rural Nebraska. Fisher is one of 3 senators who sat down at the White House 3 weeks ago for a luncheon briefing about the program that emerged as a signature element of President Donald Trump's 2016 campaign. While the bulk of the program is certain to be aimed at more populous urban areas, Fisher said she believes there may be some good opportunities for Nebraska if the finished product contains some of the flexibility that she is proposing. Omaha's federally mandated sewer overhaul is likely to cost at least $2 billion. Good night, nurse. That's a big obligation, she said, and it impacts the citizens of that community. And perhaps some infrastructure program funding support could be accessed with a match of local funds. The new program also opens an opportunity for broadband that could be used in Nebraska in rural areas that remain unserved, she said. Nebraska already has a state government mechanism in place to put forward matching dollars, Fisher said during a telephone interview from Ord. Fisher, who authored an innovative new highway development program in Nebraska when she was a state senator, is a member of the Senate Committee on Commerce, Science, and Transportation, and chairwoman of its subcommittee on surface transportation. On Tuesday, she hosted U.S. Secretary of Transportation Elaine Chao in Omaha for transportation stockholders roundtable discussion that was followed by an Omaha Chamber of Commerce luncheon and a tour of Union Pacific's facilities in Omaha. I hope to build on our productive discussion as I continue to bring Nebraska's ideas to the Senate, Fisher said. The time is 10:43, and I think Jack is ready with those F's and Q's.
Yeah, I was trying to
yeah.
Must be 40 of them or something like that anyway. There's a lot of pictures and, of course, the list of the various people that have died in the past few days. And starting off from the Omaha World Herald is this one, Charlene Blair, age 82. Hoffman's Bel Air Chapel is handling the arrangements for the funeral. Kane, this is C-A-N. Marilyn Jepson Holman Kane. John H. Gentleman's 72nd Street Chapel is handling the arrangements. Memorials can be made to the Sienna Francis House or the Maplewood United Methodist Church. Chandler, Jocelyn L. called Mickey Chandler, age 85. Hoff from Bel Air Chapel is handling the arrangements, and memorials can be made to the Sienna Francis House. Cherry, Eldon Leon Cherry, age 87. There's no mortuary given, but I'll read what it says here. It's At his request, meaning Eldon Leon Cherry, at his request, cremation has taken place and a private graveside service was held on August 23rd at the Fort Bliss National Cemetery. A celebration of life will be held in January on his 90th birthday. Next obituary, Christensen, Norma J. Christensen, age 83. The Arbor Cremation Society is handling the arrangements. The celebration of his life was planned for a later date. Corbally, Louis J. Corbally, age 93. The Creamer Funeral Home is handling the arrangements. Services are pending, and there will be a fuller notice at a later date. DeLong, Denise DeLong, age 60, of Louisville, Nebraska. The Fusselman Allen Harvey Funeral Home, located in Louisville, is handling the arrangements. Memorials are suggested to the Lincoln Humane Society. That's it. Ehlers, Ehlers. Laureen A. Ehlers, age 82. The Winter Mortuary at the Gretna Chapel, located. Doesn't say where it's located, I presume. Well, it's located at 11710 Standing Stone Street, which I guess is in Gretna, because the mortuary is in Gretna. Memorials can be made to the Resurrection Lutheran Church Building Fund in Gretna, or the Gretna Children's Library. Ficenek, F-I-C-E-N-E, say Raymond J. Ficenek, age 81. Gentlemen Mortuaries, Bellevue, Sarpy County Chapel is handling the arrangements. So the mortuary is in Bellevue. Memorials will be directed by the family. Giroux, I'm not sure how you pronounce Giroux, Giroux. Phyllis Marie Giroux, age 81. Hoffen Bellard Chapel is in charge. Memorials can be made to the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. Grew, G-R-E-W-E, Joseph A. Grew, age 98. Hoffen Bellard Chapel is handling the arrangements. Memorials can be made to the Holy Cross Educational Trust Fund. Geyer, James E. Geyer, age 68. Hoffen Bellard Chapel is in charge. And memorials can be made to the American Cancer Society. Haley, Willard L. Haley, age 87. Tonight, gentlemen, the mortuary in Bellevue is handling the arrangements. Let me see if there's any memorials here. In lieu of flowers, memorials can be made to the family. Hamilton, Charles Albert Hamilton, age 92. The West Lawn Hillcrest Funeral Home is in charge of the arrangements. A celebration of life will be held on August 25th at 10 o'clock in the morning at the Sunset Hills Baptist Church here in Omaha. In lieu of flowers, the Doc's, I don't know who the Doc's is, but Doc's wish was for any memorials to be made to the American Heart Association or the Alzheimer Association. Period. The next one is Johnson, Patricia Ann Johnson, age 70. 77. The West Lawn Hillcrest Funeral Home is in charge of the arrangements. Memorials are suggested to the Alzheimer's Association. Kaufman, Kaufmann, Francis A., known as Buzz Kaufman, age 78. Johnny Gentleman Mortuary, 72nd Street Chapel is in charge. And little flower memorials may be made to the Nebraska Humane Society. Ketchmark, Joseph A. Ketchmark, age 70. The Rhoda Mortuary and the Gretna Chapel is in charge of the arrangements. Family request donations in honor of Joseph for a memorial to be determined by the family. Krutina, Krutina, James John Krutina, age 82. The West Lawn Hillcrest Funeral Home is in charge. Trying to look at memorials. Here's memorials can be made to memorials to be directed by the family. Well, I'm going to spell that Kwapnowski. Kwapnowski, Donald P. Kwapnowski, age, born in 1931. So he was 84, 5, 6, 5, somewhere like that. There's no mortuary given, but there will be a memorial service this coming Saturday at the First Presbyterian Church located at 34th and Farnham. I'm looking for memorials. I don't see any. Okay. Next one is Lebenz, Marguerite Amanda Lebenz, age 91. Memorials are suggested to One World Community Health Centers located at 4920 South 30th Street here in Omaha. There is no mortuary given. Larry E. Lewis, age 77. The Hoy Kalnowski Funeral Home is in charge of the arrangements, and it's located in Council Bluffs. I'm going to take some big water. A little clearer with throw, I guess. Let me see. Right a little bit. So there it is. Larry E. Lewis, age 77. I always read that one. Okay. Next one. Livingston, Anna M. Her maiden name was Ulrich Livingston, age 103. Age 103 she is from Plattsmouth. The Brian P. Harvey Funeral Home located in Plattsmouth is handling the arrangements. Memorials can be made to the Church of the Holy Spirit or the Nebraska Masonic Home. Marshall Janice W. Marshall, age 89. The Colorado Mortuary located in Papillion is handling the funeral arrangements. McDaniel, Kevin McDaniel, age 57. The West Lawn Hillcrest Funeral Home is in charge. McDaniel, Lucy S. McDaniel, age 87. The Bethany Funeral Home is in charge of the funeral arrangements. Mortensen, Timothy B. Mortensen, age 55. Eve Hoffman Bellard Chapel is in charge. Memorials can be made to the American Cancer Society or to the Alzheimer's Association or to the Nancy Flaherty Senior Consulting which specializes in dementia care. Pacheco, spelled as Pacheco. Deborah Ann, her maiden name was Higby. Pacheco is how it's spelled. Pacheco, how it's spelled. Age 58. The Belleville Memorial Chapel of Hoffman is in charge. Next one is Pagier, spelled out Pageier. Verilus J. Pagier, age 87. Gentleman, mortuary, 72nd Street Chapel is handling the arrangements. Memorials can be made to the family. Pilgrim, Robert Pilgrim, age 77. The Chapel of Memories is handling the funeral arrangements. There will be no public services at this time. Memorials are suggested to the Nebraska Alzheimer's Association or to the St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Riesland, Marilyn K. Riesland, age 75. The Bremen Mortuary is in charge at their Southwest Chapel. Memorials, I don't see memorials. Next one, Rhodes, Brett Michael Rhodes, age what? Age 44. Whether that adds up or not. Yeah, age 44. Even Hoffenbauer Chapel is handling the arrangements, and memorials may be directed to the family. Rothman, Phyllis Ann Rothman, Roffman is how it's spelled. There's no mortuary. Oh, the mortuary of the Jewish funeral home. Memorials are suggested to the Rose Blumkin home or to the Nebraska Humane Society or a charity of your choice. Rumsey, Margaret M. Rumsey, age 90. The Christolocken Saskevich Funeral Home is in charge of the arrangements. And let me see. There will be memorial service at 7 o'clock in the evening at the mortuary. Schooler, Schooler, Jeffrey Lynn Schooler, age 60. The Order of Mortuary Ames Chapel is in charge of the funeral arrangements. Next obituary, Schreiner, Schreiner. Farron S. Schreiner, age 8. Ethan Hoffman, Beller Chapel is in charge. Memorials may be directed to the family. Schaefer, Dorothy I. Schaefer, age 93. Johnny Gentleman Mortuary, L Street Chapel is in charge. That's located in Ralston. There'll be a memorial service at 2 o'clock in the afternoon this coming Saturday at the Lincoln Memorial Funeral Home. Memorials may be made to the Lincoln Young Life or to the First Baptist Church in Lincoln. Silliman, Silliman, Stephen W. Silliman, age 56. Ethan Hoffenbeller Chapel is in charge, and memorials can be made to the Millard Public Schools Foundation. Simpson, Kathleen J. Simpson, age 89. The Royal Mortuary is in charge of the funeral arrangements. no memorial shown. Sobzyk, Sobczyk, Edward Joseph Sobczyk, which is Sobczyk is how it's spelled. Age 89. The Crosby, Burke, Swanson Golden Colonial Chapel is handling the arrangements. In lieu of flowers, memorials will be directed by the family. Tham, Thamm. Helene, Lina, Ida, maiden name was Frisch. Last name, Thamm, Tham. Age 94. The Forest Lawn Funeral Home is in charge of the funeral arrangements. Memorials can be made to the Good Shepherd Lutheran School at the church. Vaughn, Pamela A. Vaughn, age 71. Johnny Gentleman, 72nd Street Chapel is in charge. There'll be celebration of her life on September 16th at 11:30 in the morning, followed by a luncheon at the Countryside Community Church. Wade, Wallace D. Wade Sr., age 83. The Hoy Kanowski Funeral Home located at Council Bluffs is handling the arrangements. Memorials are suggested to Wounded Warrior Project or the Alzheimer's Association. West, Mary Lou West, age 80. The Marcy Mortuary located in Ashland is handling the arrangements. Wright, W-R-I-G-H-T, Sarah Doyle Wright, age 85. The Thomas Funeral Home is handling the funeral arrangements. And the last obituary from the World Herald is Yancey, Sam A. Yancey III, age 65. E.P. Hoffenbeller Chapel is in charge. Memorials will be directed by the family. And those are the obituaries from the Omaha World Herald.
And here are the deaths and funerals in the Journal Star. First is Barry, B-E-R-R-Y. Doris I. Barry, age 79, of Lincoln, passed away August 22nd. She was born March of 1938. Memorials to the family for her later designation, and the funeral home is Wyuka. Brennan, Claudette May Brennan, age 83, of Beatrice, died August 23rd, and that is Lincoln Memorial Funeral Home. Buss, B-U-S-S, Eileen Marjorie Buss, age 83, of Lincoln, passed away August 22nd. Born June 1934 in Savannah, Illinois. Memorials to the Pershing Elementary School in Lincoln in memory of Eileen Buss, and the funeral home is Roper and Sons. DeLong, Denise DeLong, age 60, of Louisville, died August 21st. Memorials are suggested to the Lincoln Humane Society, and Fusselman Allen Harvey Funeral Home is listed. Williams, Juanita J. Dugan Williams, age 91, of North Platte, passed away August 18th, born June 1926 in Carmen, Oklahoma. Funeral home is Adams and Swanson Funeral Home, and they are located in North Platte. Fitzgerald, J.B. Fitzgerald, born January 1942 in Mineral Springs, Texas, passed away age 75, served in the United States Navy, and memorials to the South Point Christian Church, and services at 2 p.m. at August 26th at South Point Christian Church. Jones, Sean DeAndre Jones, age 43, of Lincoln, passed away August 20th, born October 1973 in Daytona Beach, Florida. Memorials may be given to the Project Purple, and Metcalf Funeral Home Chapel in Lincoln is handling. Lang, Jerome Stanley Lang, age 88, passed away August 15th. He was born May 1929 in Cleveland, North Dakota. Let's see. Ramona Lang Scholarship. That's what it is. And Roper and Sons is the funeral home. Lewis, Richard Allen, they called him Dick Lewis, age 86, passed away August 21st. He was born March 1931 in Belleville, Kansas. He served in the United States Navy. Memorials may be made to the Food Bank of Lincoln, and a family invites friends and loved ones to a celebration of Dick's life at 1 p.m. Saturday, August 26th at Colonial Chapel. Netland, Nettland, Betty L. Netland, age 86 of Lincoln, passed August 22nd. That's Wyuka Funeral Home. Pearson Stephen L., they called him Steve, age 72 years of North Bend, died August 18th. He was born December 1944 in Lincoln. Memorials to the Blues Society of Omaha and Moser Memorial Chapel in North Bend is handling. Pyell, Pyell, Mary Ann Pyell of Stamford, born September 1927, passed away August 18th, age 89. Rankin, Patricia June, they called her Pat Rankin, age 90, formerly of Hastings, passed away August 13th, born June 1927 in Chicago, Illinois. Livingston Butler Volland Funeral Home and Cremation Service is serving the family. And memorials may be given to the Care Actor Incorporated in Hastings, Fellowship Christian Athletes in Lincoln, and Youth for Christ in Lincoln. Ratzlaff, Janet Francis of Ratzlaff, age 71 of York, died August 22nd. Memorials may be directed to the family for later designation, and the funeral home is Metz Mortuary. Schiffelbein, I believe it is, Maxine F. Schiffelbein of Lincoln, died August 20th, born May 1925 in Kennesaw. Memorials are directed to the family for later designation, and the funeral home is Farmer and Sons Funeral Home. Velgersdyk, Velgersdyk, Michael L. Velgersdyk, born October 1969 in Blair, passed away August 22nd. Memorial suggested to the Horizons Community Church Youth Programs and Camp Sunshine of Nebraska, SON Shine. Lincoln Memorial Funeral Home is handling. West, Mary Lou West, age 80 of Ashland, died August 11th. That's Marcy Mortuary, Ashland. And the last is Wissink, Cleo Wissink, age 90 of Lincoln, passed away August 22nd. Botharis Mazer and Love Funeral Home is in charge of the arrangements. So those are the deaths and funerals in the Lincoln Journal-Star. Listener memorials to the Radio Talking Book Network are tax deductible and will go a long way in keeping Radio Talking Book on the air. Please keep Radio Talking Book in mind when memorials are listed as donor's choice or your favorite charity. Donations should be sent to Radio Talking Book Network, 7101 Newport Avenue, Suite 205, Omaha, Nebraska 68152. Thank you for being a Radio Talking Book Network listener and supporter. Jack and I will be back momentarily. We hope that you will be too. And here is Paul.
Righto.
Yeah, thank you very much, Philip. Thank you, Jack.
Boy, did you have a bunch of deaths and funerals? Oh,
You're
when
right.
you put it over there, I just saw the one page.
Oh, I see it.
Wow.
Yeah, I should let you know how much, just by the showing that long list.
Yeah.
Profile America.
We have to have their own section. We have international news. We got, whole thing on.
Yeah.
Just people dying.
Honest to God.
Oh.
Maybe that'll be our program. Oh, dear.
The living and the dead.
Crum decided to slice potatoes wafer thin and stir fry them.
Inappropriate.
Oh.
Yeah, that's right. But there really has been a lot of maybe.
Four incidents.
Yeah, I mean, that's the second or third one in the last month or something like that.
The admiral that is responsible is out of there.
Oh, did I didn't see
It's
that.
somewhere in the paper.
Yeah, it's
I
got
heard it
to.
on the internet.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
a deal. I mean, you gotta have, somebody's gotta be responsible, but how does it happen?
Yeah. See, the other one was what's called the fish. See that? The USS Fitzgerald was the name of the ship. I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the one where
a special tribute double feature movie.
the ship hit a I forget what.
A container ship.
Yeah, it was kind of.
Oh, they're ginormous. You know, my son-in-law was here when that happened. He used to say, when he was saying how responsibility, if you're on the one way and you're coming the other way, this guy's responsible. If you're coming the other way, that. Somebody screwed that up.
Yeah.
He said he was.
I forget the details on
this kid of mine
on this one.
Our son-in-law, he says, "Oh no!" When he was reading it,
no,
because
why me?
he's been in that Pacific area for several
Yeah.
years.
Oh
Actually.
yeah. Oh.
And enjoy. Thank you.
And thank you, Ann Pelican, for that. You are
Oh,
tuned
she's
to
back. Ann Pelican was in the
Nebraska, very proudly serving our blind and visually impaired listeners for over 42
Well, we're gonna shorten. We can kind of shorten this part, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean,
like I've got two. I'll just do those. And
yeah, I'll just read some couple, three public pulses or something like that.
Okay.
Because I mean, there's nothing kind of going through this quickly. I didn't see anything that's
Here we go again. We're back. Thank you, Paul. We're back, and I think we've got something from the opinion page of the Omaha World Herald, or should we go from the Lincoln Journal Star? Here we are, from the letters to the editor from the Journal Star. U.S. relies on pipelines. MetalQuest Unlimited is a high-precision machining facility located in Hebron. Our team, 73 members strong, aspires and works each day to push the most advanced technology available within the manufacturing sector into new territory. Our company has grown to be an integral part of the local economy and produces many parts for sectors core to life as we know it. One of these sectors is the oil and gas industry, which includes pipelines similar to the Keystone XL. As you hear many perspectives on this topic, we ask you to consider the safety record of American pipelines in general. According to the Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration, the U.S. currently has over 2.6 million miles of pipeline crisscrossing nearly all parts of our country, or enough to circle the earth over 104 times. They exist virtually unnoticed and serve as the core foundation for our entire economy. Pipelines are indisputably the safest, most efficient way to transport products to and from their needed locations, and are essential for us to heat our homes, power our vehicles, and even use electricity. Furthermore, their records show they are not the environmental catastrophe many activists would have you believe. Our entire nation relies on pipelines, and without them, companies would be forced to use transportation methods that truly do hurt our environment, which I'm confident we will all oppose. And that was penned by Scott Harms from the Hebron founder, MetalQuest Unlimited. And the other is just a short one, Get Government Out of Farming. Paul Morrison's letter, and that was Understanding the Role of Government, January 28th, adjust the proper role of government. I have been a farmer all my life. I couldn't agree more with him about farm payments. Please take my farm subsidy payments and stop all interference by the government in my business. That means closing all the Farm Service Agency, National Climate Assessment, and Environmental Protection Agency, Department of Environmental Quality, and so on. Government agencies related to my farm payments, and that was contributed by Craig Bowles of Palmyra. Here's Jack.
Here's the public calls letters from the Omaha World Herald. First one I have in front of me is written by Shirley Good, G-U-D-E, maybe Goody. Here's what she has to say. I am 68 years old, and I plan to vote for the Phase 2 of the Omaha Public Schools bond, even though I know that it will cost me a little more in taxes. I've decided that I can skip a night out next year so that students in our community are able to learn in a safe and uncrowded environment. When I vote yes, hopefully in November, it says, of this year, I'm not going to give the board millions of dollars. I know that the district will have a bond management team that will diligently manage the money and schedules of the bond projects as it did for the first bond. All the projects from the 2014 bond have been on time and on budget. This isn't a coincidence. That is due to good program management and oversight by a citizens committee. The Omaha public schools do it right the first time. Many of the projects completed with the first bond were designed assuming additional capacity improvements from phase 2 bond. Let's finish what we started back in 2014 and continue to invest in our community school district. Next letter is written by John Barna of Omaha, and he says this: why not turn the Crosswords Mall property into a combination of state and county offices that would house the Omaha Police and Fire Department headquarters, as well as the Department of Motor Vehicles and also a courthouse, City Council and support services. The mayor nixes incentives agreement for Crossroads on the August 18th World Herald newspaper issue. The property is centrally located on major bus routes and has plenty of parking available. I agree. I just got one more here. Another letter here. This was written by J.B. Duncan, Omaha. Deploying more troops in Afghanistan is madness on steroids. We should have bombed that country into a parking lot back in September. That would be winning. The last 16 years have been spent treading deadly sewer water. I'll read that again. The last 16 years have been spent treading deadly sewer water of Afghan tribal government, such as it is appeasement, stupid rules of engagement, waste, and fraud. It just means 4,000 more of somebody else's American sons and daughters to be killed or injured, yet again in some misguided occupation strategy. Every dead soldier lost in that pit is from last day on a Trump casualty.
Thank you, Jack. Here is the editorial from the Lincoln Journal-Star from the paper there. And it says, Arena's big weekend is a promise kept. When Lincoln voters were faced in 2010 with a $25 million ballot question on whether to build a new arena in West Haymarket, proponents of the measure promised a moon to skeptics. The best concerts, big-time sporting events, transforming a forgotten area into a prime attraction, all in Lincoln. Those claims may have seemed far-fetched as the arena earned approval in 2010, broke ground in 2011, and opened its doors in 2013. But the recent string of high-profile events culminating last weekend with a top-tier concert and an international boxing match confirmed Lincoln would indeed experience all that was promised. Officials with the Pinnacle Bank Arena have publicly called 2017 their biggest year for concerts, even though it's only August, and other dates have yet to be announced. Kendrick Lamar's Damn, D-A-M-N tour, which electrified a near sellout crowd in Lincoln on Friday night, was the most in-demand concert of the summer. The hip-hop artist currently has the #1 album in country and was featured on the cover of last week's Rolling Stone magazine, and he played Lincoln, by far the smallest city on his national tour, largely because of its strong crowds for concerts. Other top entertainers have taken notice, too. 4 of the 6 candidates for Artist of the Year at MTV's Video Music Awards recently performed. Kendrick Lamar, Bruno Mars, or as soon scheduled to take the stage, The Weeknd, and Lorde, L-O-R-D-E, at Pinnacle Bank Arena. In a market this size, snaring such big names means Lincoln punches far above its weight. To that end, landing Saturday night's boxing match between Omaha's Terrence Bud Crawford and Namibian Julius Ndongo was also a major coup for the arena. Boxing may not be the draw it was in decades past, but the unification bout seen by more than 12,000 in attendance, outdrawing previous fights in his hometown, and hundreds of thousands more on national TV, was a rare occasion. Though Crawford's third-round knockout Crawford's third-round knockout win on a wicked body blow prematurely ended the fight, he won all 4 major belts in his weight class, the first time any boxer has been an undisputed champion at any weight in 12 years, and he did it in Lincoln. All the while, the area outside the arena played host to Rib Fest, a 3-day festival that drew thousands into the surrounding streets. Since the arena's construction, the nearby region has been reinvented, drawing investments into restaurants, bars, hotels, apartments, and office buildings. Such a scene in what was a dead end to downtown in 2010 would have been merely fantasy within the last decade. Yet here in Lincoln is in 2017 with an arena that proved it could live up to the sky-high promises pitched to voters 7 years ago. Here's Jack.
Thank you. I'd like to insert here, I found another obituary that, because it's somebody from out of town that you maybe have noticed, friends here in town. The name is Turner, Robert, known as Bob Turner. He was age 98, and he was buried next to his wife in a gravesite service in Sonora, California. Donations may be made in lieu of flowers to the Oakland Museum Foundation, located in Oakland, California, or can also be made to the Children's Hospital and Research Center Foundation, also located in Oakland. The name of the mortuary is Chapel of the Chimes, located in Oakland, and the address there is 4499 Piedmont Avenue, Oakland, California. And zip code there is 94611, Chapel of the Chimes in Oakland, California.
Thank you, Jack. The time is 11:21. We're going to move on to today's living and entertainment. And here's Ask Amy. And she says, man wonders why his coworkers harass him. Dear Amy, I'm a 47-year-old guy, happily married with 4 kids. I am an average-looking guy and by no means God's gift to women. I am easygoing, friendly to everyone, and have good conversation skills. I work in a place for disabled people where most coworkers are women. Now to my problem. I'm wondering if I have been too friendly to my coworkers because during the 5 years I've worked in my job, I perceived that some women are trying to get intimate. In a group meeting, one employee rubbed her leg against mine for a while, and at another woman leaned against me, touched my shoulder and back, and whispered some completely unimportant things in my ear, and so on. It's starting to feel awkward because one of these 2 women is the same age as my daughter, age 20. I like to interact and talk with people, but sometimes I feel that the conversation has gone too far. It feels that there is something more going on. Sometimes the conversation strays toward topics, for instance, the emotions that this work wakes within us that are not so uncommon in a workplace. Is there a way not to appear as if I'm after something from those women without being rude? Am I just imagining things that are not there? The reply, dear, and that was signed Worried, dear Worried, the first thought of someone being sexually harassed is often that it is their fault. It is not. I'm going to guess that your work is rewarding, but possibly stressful and emotionally and perhaps physically taxing. It is completely normal to talk about your feelings and emotions concerning your work. Being able to talk about your feelings helps you and your colleagues to stay sane and connected. However, a coworker should never interpret normal workplace chit-chat as an invitation to sexually harass someone. Rubbing your leg under the table in the conference room is unprofessional, unacceptable, and physically violating. Whispering in your ear is immature, unprofessional, and rude to you and others. You should always behave professionally. Keep your distance physically. Never engage in overly personal conversations with coworkers half your age, and don't discuss intimate issues in your marriage with coworkers. Also, don't worry about appearing rude toward people who are willfully violating your right to a harassment-free workplace. When this happens, you should start by drawing a distinct boundary, physically moving to another area, and simply asking the person to stop doing what they're doing. Don't whisper in my ear, please. I don't like it. If this behavior continues and/or gets worse, you should kick it upstairs to a manager. The next day, Amy, my husband and I were recently invited by another couple to go see a play with them. We understood that the tickets cost more than $100, and we reimbursed them for the tickets. I learned a few days after the play that they had received their tickets completely free as a promotion. I was a bit upset that they never told us that they had received free tickets and expected us to pay full price for our tickets. It made us feel used. What is the proper etiquette in this situation when you have free tickets and you invite another couple to go with you? Should they have told us before we accepted that we should have to pay full price for these tickets? If I had known what they were doing, I would have never gone. Should they have split the cost with us? Feeling used. That's the way it was signed, feeling used. Dear used, your friends shouldn't have split the cost of these tickets because there was no cost. The tickets were free, and now it sounds as if they enjoyed a free evening at the theater and walked away with more than $100 in their pocket. You should not be expected to pay for free tickets. They should not be basically reselling tickets they've received as part of a promotion. You should contact your friend and ask why you were asked to reimburse them for tickets they had gotten for free. Maybe your friend will be able to make an offer and an explanation that makes sense. I can't think of any. And the last, dear Amy, burned by grandma, relayed how her mother sent her an invoice to cover expenses when her granddaughter visited. I suggest that burned should send her mother an invoice to cover expenses that the family incurred when the grandmother stayed with them for several months. Signed, Dismayed. Dear Dismayed, in a contest to see who could be more passive-aggressive, this would be a winner. 11:26, here's Jack.
Thank you, Bill. Article within the living section of the newspaper here in Aurora Herald on Princess Diana's death here 20 years ago is what happened. I thought it might be of interest here. Princes William and Harry have spoken candidly about the death of their mother, Princess Diana, in an interview marking 20 years since she was killed in a car crash, paying tribute to the actions of their father in breaking the tragic news. Excerpts of the BBC interviews released yesterday mark something of a departure for the two princes, who have largely refrained from discussing Prince Charles' actions in other interviews, describing their mother ahead of the anniversary. But in the documentary Diana, 7 Days, they appear to offer sympathy for him, quelling speculation that he had been uncaring in the crisis. One of the hardest things for a parent to have to do is to tell your children that your other parent has died, Harry said. How you deal with that, I don't know, but you know he was there for that. The documentary chronicles the week after the prince's death on August 31st of 1997 and features then Prime Minister Tony Blair, senior royal aides, and Diana's brother. The princes have spoken out for a series of programs and interviews in the run-up to the anniversary, sharing personal insights into their lives in keeping with their campaigns to promote mental health. The two brothers discussed the funeral with the now balding Prince William, describing how he hid behind his bangs to keep out the prying eyes of sobbing crowds. I just remember hiding behind my fringe, basically at a time when I had a lot of hair and my head's down a lot, so I'm hiding behind my fringe. William, who was 15 at the time, said it was kind of like a tiny bit of safety blanket, if you like what I'm talking about. I know it sounds ridiculous, but at the time I felt I'd looked at the floor and my hair came down over my face so no one could see me. He described the procession as a very long, lonely walk, even though he understood there was a balance between me being Prince William and having to do my bit versus the private William who just wanted to go to the room and cry, who'd lost his mother. Prince Harry also talked about walking behind his mother's coffin in the funeral cortege when he was only 12 years old, though he had previously told Newsweek magazine that this was not something any child should be asked to do. He appeared in a program to suggest that in hindsight, he was glad to have taken the part. I think it was a group decision, but before I knew it, I was found myself, with a suit on, with a black tie, a white shirt, I think, and I was part of the Prince Harry. I was part of Prince Harry. Generally, I don't have an opinion whether that was right or wrong. I'm glad I was part of it. Looking back on it now, I'm very glad that I was a part of it. Prince William said that walking behind the cortege goes to another level of duty. I just kept thinking about what she would have, what she would want, and that she'd be proud of Harry and I, and being able to go through it, he said. Effectively, she was there with us. It felt like she was almost walking along beside us to get us through all of this.
Wow. What a deal, huh?
Yeah.
From the Journal Star, here's Ask the Doctors when and how to take meds with food. Dear doctor, when a medication says take with food, what exactly does that mean? If you take it with a few crackers, does that count? I have a medication I take before going to bed when I don't feel like eating anything big. The reply, dear reader, when it comes to medications, how and when you take them can play a significant role in how effective they are, but it also affects how they interact with your body. The directions to take with food means that you should not ingest that particular medication on an empty stomach. There are multiple reasons for this. One is that components of some medications can cause stomach upset, such as nausea or vomiting, if they are not taken along with food. Additionally, the presence of food can help to buffer the stomach and prevent potential irritation. Over the long term, medications like aspirin and other NSAIDs, corticosteroids like prednisone, as well as some oral contraceptives, can cause inflammation or even ulcers when taken on an empty stomach. The other thing that the presence of food does is to initiate digestion. When you eat, gastric acid is released into the stomach, which helps break down food and any medication into smaller components. For some medications, the bile and stomach acid produced during digestion boost the rate at which they can break down and are absorbed. Conversely, other medications would be absorbed too quickly if taken on an empty stomach. The presence of food helps slow the process. As to what with food actually means, it's not necessarily a full meal. If you happen to be timing your medication to breakfast, lunch, and dinner, that's fine. But a few crackers at bedtime, as you said, can be adequate. Ditto for a piece of fruit or a glass of milk. It's probably a good idea to ask your pharmacist why your medication should be accompanied by food. That way, if it's to prevent inflammation or indigestion, you can monitor your response and increase or change the kind of food you're eating to maintain maximum comfort. But, and it's a very important one, not all foods are created equal. When it comes to medications, grapefruit juice and some other fruit juices can change how drugs behave. They can increase the absorption rate of some drugs, including some statins. They can also change how the body metabolizes certain drugs, including antihistamines, birth control pills, and blood pressure medications, among others. That means you can wind up with blood levels of a medication that are lower or higher than are optimal. Be sure to read the medication label. If you're uncertain what foods are okay, check with your pharmacist. What about medications that require an empty stomach? For these, take them either no less than 1 hour before a meal or at least 2 hours after a meal. And if you're taking them after a meal, that means your medication will do its best work if you don't eat again for another 2 hours. Here's Jack.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's an article I found interesting also, a suggestion to your garden, flower garden, or any kind of garden, I guess. Adding antique garden ornaments to the landscape blends horticulture with history. One-of-a-kind pieces will personalize your property and over time may grow into something richly rewarding, financially as well as artistically. Really outstanding good old pieces such as a swan bench, unusual large decorative urn, or piece of sculpture will continue to go up in value. But really more important to my client is the same artistic pleasure that placing a certain piece in their garden gives to them. According to Eileen Eleanor, who is owner of the Eileen Minor Garden, Antiques and Decorative Arts located in Maryland. Some of her garden antiques have been installed in the U.S. Capitol, the Smithsonian Institution, the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston, and in private collections around the United States, Germany, England, and France. The definition of antique is somewhat elastic, but certainly applies to objects more than 100 years old. What makes a piece worth collecting, I would say, rarity, design, detail, all original parts and age, according to Miner. Garden antiques are most commonly made of wicker, metal, or stone, and range from pergolas and gazebos to cemetery headstones and fountains, from ironwork, fencing, and gates to outdoor furniture and windows. Family heirlooms certainly qualify. Each person has his or her own idea about what constitutes a collectible. And according to Trey Roan, who's owner of the Troy Roan Garden Design in Alabama, not many pieces can stand the test of time when exposed to the weather, to using pieces that have proved their sustainability is something most people are drawn toward. Many people shape their garden antique collections around a theme. Some may want to match a Victorian setting, highlighting the looks of their home and neighborhood. Others simply want practical antiques spotted tastefully around the garden. Collectors do collect pieces based on forms such as antiques, hitching posts, or interesting sculpture, Miner said. But more often they are looking to find unusual pieces such as a fountain for a focal point in the garden, or are looking for an attractive antique or vintage bench or settee for seating in their garden. Estate sales, auctions, and antique dealers are good places to look, Roan said. Living at a time when so much is mass produced, it's nice to have something that no one else has. This is easily accompanied with an antique that was handmade. No one else is likely to have that exact piece, so it allows a space to have individuality, which is what makes one garden ahead and stand out from another garden. Secure them, though. High-end antique pieces are prime targets for thievery. Interesting. And that's the article from Living.
Do you have something I can read, like history or something?
Yeah, here. What we got here? Something about. I don't know where that comes from. That's pretty long. I don't know what's over here. Might be something here, maybe.
Living, huh?
Maybe.
Let's see, huh?
I haven't read any of that. I'm just.
Here's one. Oh, no, I don't think that's the one that has that. I take that back. Oh, here's history. There don't have too much time. 11:38 is the time. In history, August 24th, 1992, Hurricane Andrew smashed into Florida, causing $30 billion in damage. 43 U.S. deaths were blamed on the storm. AD 79, Anno Domini 79, long dormant Mount Vesuvius erupted, burying the Roman cities of Pompeii and Herculaneum in volcanic ash. An estimated 20,000 people died. 1572, the St. Bartholomew's Day massacre of French Protestants at the hands of Catholics began in Paris. 1814, during the War of 1812, British forces invaded Washington, D.C., setting fire to the Capitol, which was still under construction, and the White House, as well as other public buildings. 1932, Amelia Earhart embarked on a 19-hour flight from L.A. to Newark, New Jersey, making her the first woman to fly solo, nonstop from coast to coast. 1949, the North Atlantic Treaty came into force. That's NATO. 1954, President Dwight D. Eisenhower signed the Communist Control Act outlawing the Communist Party in the United States. And in baseball, Commissioner A. Bartlett Giamatti banned Pete Rose from the game for betting on his own teams, the Cincinnati Reds. The time is 11:40, and it's time for a little news on business.
A little business here. Well, here's some business here. Sales of new homes here in this country plummeted 9.5% in July, the sharpest one-month drop in nearly a year, according to the Commerce Department. But the decline followed strong sales in previous months, and sales so far this year are outpacing last year's. New home sales fell to a seasonally adjusted annual rate of 571,000 in July, down from 630,000 in the previous month. The housing market overall is mostly healthy, but sales have stumbled this summer as the supply crunch has elevated average home prices nationwide. And here's something about Lowe's, the home building. Lowe's has been benefiting from the multi-year rebound in remodeling, though not as much as bigger rival Home Depot. Adjusted earnings were $1.50 a share last quarter. Mooresville, North Carolina-based Lowe's said that Wednesday, analysts estimated $1.50 on average. That sent the shares down as much as 6%. Home Depot has posted better same-store sales growth, even as both have capitalized on the renovation boom. Some of that gap has been blamed on Home Depot having better locations, especially in the Northeast, where Lowe's is still expanding. There's the article about a minister. A former Dutch justice minister was appointed Wednesday to lead investigation into the illegal use of a pesticide called Fipronil. Never heard of that one. Fipronil. That's what it is. Fipronil. On laying hens in the Netherlands, which sparked a food scare in Europe and beyond and led to this destruction of millions of eggs. According to a government commission report, the estimated direct economic cost of the scandal to the Dutch ham farmers was around $39 million. And we're getting close to sports.
Yeah.
Well, we got a couple of 3 minutes or so, I guess.
Okay.
We want to do sports or business or whatever it is.
I got just
You got
one
something?
on business. Yeah, thank you.
Bill's right at the top of things. Right?
Cargill and Gates invest in a startup making meat from animal cells. Cargill, one of the largest global agricultural companies, has joined Bill Gates and other business giants to invest in a nascent, and I looked that up, and that means new technology, to make meat from self-producing animal cells amid rising consumer demand for protein that's less reliant on feed, land, and water. Memphis Meats, which produces beef, chicken, and duck directly from animal cells without raising and slaughtering livestock or poultry, raised $17 million from investors including Cargill, Gates, and billionaire Richard Branson, according to a statement Tuesday on the San Francisco-based startup website. The fundraising round was led by venture capital firm DFJ, which has previously backed several social-minded retail startups. This is the latest move by an agricultural giant to respond to consumers, especially millennials, who are rapidly leaving their mark on the U.S. U.S. food world. And whether it's through surging demand for organic products, increasing focus on food that's considered sustainable, or greater attention on animal treatment, big poultry and livestock processors have started to take up alternatives to traditional meat. The world loves to eat meat, and it is core to many of our cultures and traditions. Uma Valeti, co-founder and CEO of Memphis Meats, said in the statement, "The way conventional meat is produced today creates challenges for the environment, animal welfare, and human health. These are problems that everyone wants to solve." And here's Jack, 11:45. We're moving along.
Okay, the sports section, the last section of our newscast this morning. A few golfers, get the microphone on me. A few golfers can say they hit a hole-in-one at the Wild Horse Golf Club. Craig Beck's ace is even rarer company. The 33-year-old from Papillion and his group had planned the 240-mile trip to Gothenburg for 4 months to see the solar eclipse and play around the golf. During the eclipse, the golf course was as dark as many areas in the state. It was eerie. Birds started making more noise. Beck said he could hear the crickets chirping. As the temperature returned to normal and golfers were able to at least see the greens, they continued. They had to. The course was packed to the point where the group, Beck's father, Mike, and friends Tim Mullen and Tim Myers had to pay extra just to secure the tee time. It had to be the biggest Monday we've ever had, Wild Horse general manager and head PGA pro said. A lot of weird things happened at the course that day. Soon after, Beck had taken off his special eclipse glasses and left them in the cart. He teed off on the 11th hole. It was a few minutes after totality. 3/4 of the sun was still covered. With another group about to catch up to Beck's, he pulled out his gap wedge and hit toward the pin 124 yards away. The green was surrounded by 3 bunkers with a large rough lead up to it. Tracked the Titleist number 18 until it hit the green. It started out as a solid shot about 20 feet from the hole. Then it kept on rolling. It started turning toward the hole, and then we just saw it disappear, Beck said. Then I was hugging everyone, yelling and screaming. The next couple of seconds were mostly a blur for Beck. He was celebrating enough for the group on the 10th green to notice. I'm sure at first they thought we were a little obnoxious, he said, but once we told them about it, they were cool. The celebration continued in the clubhouse where Beck bought drinks for everyone after his hole-in-one. His father had an ace before, but this was the first time he and his son were able to share the experience. It was unbelievable, Mike Beck said. It was a pretty special thing that you get to enjoy with your son. Then this is one of our favorite courses, and with the eclipse and everything else, we couldn't think of a better place to be for it. You're not out, you are out in the sandhills, and it's a extremely beautiful place to play golf. I don't know how you could have drawn it up any better.
Thank you.
Hole-in-one and eclipse all at the same time.
Yeah, that's pretty darn good.
Yeah.
Here's the NUN area news from the Journal Star. Crumlund wins another senior match play title. Maybe they should just rename it the Mike Crumlund Trophy. The Columbus native won his 4th Nebraska Senior Match Play Championship on Wednesday at Fremont Golf Club. That means Crumlund has won 4 times in the 7 years of the tournament. After failing to close out Omaha's Skip Gist on numbers 14 and 15 in the final, Crumlin found the trees on the right part of the par number 16 and had to punch out to the fairway. From 67 yards out, Crumlin holed his third shot for a birdie. Just missed a birdie putt that would have extended the match and gave Crumlin a 3-2 win for the title. Crumlin won his semifinal match against Elkhorn Steve Ritzman in 19 holes with a par on the first hole. Just also needed extra holes to advance, defeating Fremont's John Sajovic in 20 holes. Crumlin won the 2011, 2014, and 2015 titles. His record in match play at the championship is now 17-1. High schools. John Fossler has stepped down from his position as Beatrice softball coach. Beatrice athletic director Neil Randall confirmed Fossler's resignation to the Beatrice Daily Sun on Wednesday afternoon, citing personal reasons. Randall didn't go into further details on Fossler's departure, but confirmed that former Lady Orange head coach, Dennis Dodge, will take over as the interim head coach. Dodge had been an assistant under Fossler this season. Fossler took over the Beatrice softball program in 2016 after Dodge's retirement. He led Beatrice to a 17-14 record during the 2016 season. Dodge previously coached Beatrice for 11 years and accumulated more wins than any other softball coach at the school. His career record is 276 wins, 93 losses. Here's Jack.
Thank you. An article about curling, isn't it? Curling, yeah, right. Bidek can go. Bidek. Can you go? Bidek, can you? Oh, go learn things about this. I don't understand the article. Bidek, can you go learn things about this bonspiel they're having down at the Baxter later this week? Always eager to try something new. I said yes. After figuring out that bonspiel is a curling term and not the name of a German jazz festival, it was time to brush up on terms like hog line or bid air or sweeping or shot rock. Some of the world's best curlers are in Omaha the next 3 days for the made-for-TV international event entitled Curling Night in America. One men's, one women's, and one mixed doubles team from the U.S., China, Japan, and Scotland will each compete in a double round robin format over the next 3 days. The competition, which will be broadcast on NBC Sports Network in October, is a precursor to the U.S. Olympics team that will have taken place November 11th at the Baxter Arena. To help generate interest in the event, some of the worst possible candidates for curling, members of the local media, were invited to Baxter on Wednesday to learn more about and try their hand at curling. The last time I participated in a nice event was learning how to skate as part of the 2013 U.S. Figure Skating National Championship at Century Link Center. Fortunately for my backside, knees, and elbows, not nearly as much falling was required for this assignment. While I planned on the skating to leave a few marks, I didn't believe curling was going to be nearly as difficult as it turned out to be. Let me see. Crouch. What you do is crouch down, slide a little bit, push a little stone here and there. It looks so easy on TV, and everybody knows how to sweep. Of course, lots of physical activities look easy when the best of the best are doing what they practiced daily for years, even decades. Hitting a wicked curveball looks easy until you're the guy standing at home plate handling the bat. This fast-growing sport takes much more athletic ability than most of us possess. U.S. men's team and members Chris Plies and Tom Howell patiently tried it. Teach me some of the finer points of the sport that has refreshingly generated doses of sportsmanship and goodwill.
11:54 is the time, and here is a NFL note. Supporters rally for Kaepernick. Supporters of former San Francisco 49ers quarterback Colin Kaepernick, who refused to stand for the national anthem to protest police brutality against blacks, showed their solidarity with him and his cause at a rally outside the headquarters of the National Football League on Wednesday. More than 1,000 people, many wearing jerseys bearing Kaepernick's name, crowded the steps outside the NFL's downtown Manhattan offices. Kaepernick, who once took the 49ers to the Super Bowl, opted out of his contract with the team in March and remains unsigned. Supporters say he is being blackballed for his advocacy, but some critics say he should not have sat or kneeled during the anthem or contend his lack of a job is more about his on-field talent. Chants at the demonstration included boycott. Women's March organizer Tamika Mallory addressed football fans, said, "And I don't care how long you've been watching football. If they don't stand up for their children, turn the damn TV off." Political commentator Simon Sanders said, "We are all standing with Kaepernick. It's time for the NFL to put up or shut up." Earlier Wednesday, the NAACP called for a meeting with the NFL to discuss the fate of Kaepernick, who was born to a white woman and a black man, but was adopted by a white couple. The civil rights organization interim president Derek Johnson said in a letter to the NFL's commissioner Roger Goodell that it is apparently no sheer coincidence that Kaepernick isn't on the roster. And here's Jack.
Thank you. Here's some college football notes. 8 former Nebraska players who are masters of the College Football Hall of Fame are being added to the list of Huskers with retired jerseys. University on Wednesday announced honor posthumously for Guy Chamberlain, Clarence Swanson, Ed Weir, George Sauer, Sam Francis, Forrest Bean, Bobby Reynolds, and Wayne Malin. The most recent to play was Malin, whose career spanned from 1965 to 1967. The players will have their names added to the North Stadium facade and will be honored at the season opener against Arkansas State on September 2nd. They will join 17 other former Huskers who have their jerseys retired. The numbers of those retired jerseys will continue to be used. The only permanently retired members on the Nebraska program belong to Tom Novak, which is number 60, and Bob Brown, number 64. Iowa coach Kirk Ferentz and his wife Mary have donated $1 million to the University of Iowa's Stead Family Children's Hospital. The donation will be used to start the Savvy Ferentz program in national neonatal research to improve care for infants who are born prematurely. The program is named in memory of Ferentz's granddaughter, Savvy Ferentz, who was born early after 21 weeks and 5 days of gestation in August of 2014. And part of this other news, fired about some Minneapolis football. Former Minnesota coach Tracy Claeys is